The morning mist still clung to the fields beyond the camp when the horns sounded. I remember that sound. It cut through the fog like iron through flesh, sharp and cold, waking even the deadest soul from his dreams. I rose before the others, as I always did. Habit, or perhaps fear, drives me. A Roman soldier has no right to sleep too deeply. Death comes quietly, like the step of an assassin in the dark. I strapped my caligy, tightened the leather thongs, and looked at the sky. It was grey, heavy with the promise of rain. Jupiter was angry again, I thought, and perhaps he had every reason to be. We were in Gaul then, far from home, building roads through forests that whispered in foreign tongues. Every tree seemed to hide an enemy, every hill a ghost. My name is Lucius Marcellus, centurion of the 10th Legion. I have served Rome for 16 years, so long enough to forget the smell of home, long enough to know the weight of silence before a battle. I joined when I was barely a man. My father was a farmer near Capua. When he died, the land was sold to pay his debts. The recruiter's speech was sweet: serve Rome, earn land, earn honor. I believed him. I wanted to belong to something larger than hunger. Now, I belong to the Legion, and hunger belongs to me. We trained before dawn. The rain came in thin lines, washing dust from our shields. The Optio barked orders, his voice cracking the air. Testado, advance. Shields rose, edges locked, iron clashed. The familiar sound of discipline. Every day the same rhythm: march, drill, eat, march again. A Roman soldier becomes a machine made of flesh and obedience. But in the quiet moments, when the campfire dies and only the sound of rain remains, the machine remembers it has a heart. I would think of my mother then, her hands rough from work, her eyes soft when she saw me off at the gate. She said, "Serve Rome well, my son, and Rome will take care of you." I smiled and believed her. Rome takes care of no one. Rome only consumes. The order came at midday. Scouts reported a Gallic force gathering near the river. We were to march before sunset. The men prepared in silence. Some prayed to Mars, others kissed small wooden tokens carved with the faces of their wives. I carried no token. I had learned not to keep reminders. They break too easily. The legate rode along the line, shouting words of courage. I watched his polished armor glint in the weak sun and wondered if courage could be bought like that shine. My armor was dull, scarred by years of use. It told the truth, not a speech. We marched through mud that swallowed our boots. The forest closed around us, thick and damp. The Gauls knew this land, we did not. Every sound was a warning: the cry of a bird, the snap of a branch, the rustle of leaves. The column tightened, shields up. My hand never left the hilt of my gladius. I could feel the heartbeat in my palm, steady but waiting. When the attack came, it came like lightning, a fast, sudden, merciless. Arrows whistled from the trees. Men fell with barely a sound. We formed ranks instinctively, shields overlapping. The air filled with shouts in a language I could not understand but had learned to fear. Advance, I roared, my voice breaking the chaos. The line moved forward, step by brutal step. I saw faces painted, furious, human. The first man I met swung an axe at my head. I raised my shield, felt the shock rattle my arm, and stabbed low. He fell. Another came. Another after that. In moments like these, time disappears. You move because you must. You kill because you are trained to. You survive because death has not yet chosen your name. When it was over, the ground was red and soft beneath our feet. The rain washed it into the river, turning it the color of rust. I remember staring at the water, thinking how easily blood disappears. Rome would call it victory. I called it another day survived. We buried our dead at dusk, their bodies lined like bricks in a wall. Each man given a small coin for Charon's fair, each name recorded by the scribe. I did not pray. The gods had been silent too long. Night in the camp is a strange thing. You would think the soldiers rest, but they do not. Some drink, some gamble, some stare at the stars, trying to remember constellations they learned as children. I sit by the fire and clean my sword. The blood hardens quickly, it must be scrubbed before morning. I run my finger along the blade. The gladius is short, efficient, without ornament like the life of the man who wields it. A Roman soldier does not live for beauty. He lives for order, for command, for the next breath. Sometimes I envy the men who fall. Their struggle ends. Mine continues. But then I think of the promised land after 20 years, a small farm, peace. It is the dream that keeps us marching. I can almost see it when I close my eyes, a house on a hill, olive trees, my son playing with a wooden sword. Yet even in that dream, I wear armor. Rome never leaves you. The next campaign took us east, across the Rhine. The barbarians there fought differently. They did not fear death, they invited it. Their eyes were wild, their songs filled with fury. We fought them in a valley surrounded by mist. The battle lasted 2 days. I lost count of the dead. My friend Titus fell beside me, a spear through his chest. He gasped once, blood bubbling from his mouth. I held him until the light left his eyes. He was from Hispania, had joined the legion to feed his family. I buried him with his dagger and whispered earlier that Rome would remember him. Rome remembers no one, only victors, not the hands that made victory possible. After the battle, the legate praised us. You have brought glory to Rome, he said. Glory. The word tastes like iron and dust. It does not fill the stomach or warm the bones. But the men cheered anyway. We had been trained to cheer. That night, I could not sleep. The faces of the fallen haunted the darkness. I walked beyond the camp, into the quiet woods. The moon hung low, pale as bone. I knelt and pressed my hand into the soil. It was wet, cold, alive. I wondered if this land hated us for what we had done to it. I whispered an apology to no one. Months passed. Seasons blurred into each other. A mud, snow, heat, rain. Campaigns never end, they only move. My armor grew heavier with dents, my shoulders harder, my heart quieter. I became what Rome wanted, efficient, loyal, unyielding. But inside, something hollowed out. When I looked at my reflection in the river, I saw a stranger. The boy from Capua was long gone. The soldier who remained was carved from discipline and regret. Then came the order to return south to build a new fort near the frontier. I felt a strange relief, not joy, but something close. The march back was long. Villages burned in our wake, smoke rising like dark prayers. We called it pacification. The locals called it murder. Both were true. At the fort, construction began at once. Timber, stone, sweat, curses. We built walls higher than fear itself. At night, we stood watch, staring into the dark forest beyond the palisade. Sometimes, I thought I saw movement or shadows slipping between trees. But maybe it was only my mind, unwilling to rest. One evening, a messenger arrived from Rome. He brought orders and news. Caesar had crossed the Rubicon. The Republic trembled. Men whispered of civil war. Some cheered, others feared. I did neither. I had seen enough of wars between men who claimed to love the same Rome. For the soldier, politics means new enemies wearing familiar armor. I was promoted that year. A centurion now, responsible for 80 men. I should have felt pride. Instead, I felt the weight of 80 souls on my conscience. Each face a reminder that command is not honor, it is burden. I enforced discipline, punished cowardice, rewarded obedience. But inside, I envied the simplest recruit, the one who still believed in glory. Belief is a luxury I lost long ago. During one patrol near the frontier, we found a small village burned. Only smoke and silence remained. Among the ruins, I found a child alive, trembling, eyes wide with terror. He could not have been more than 6. He spoke a language I did not understand. My men waited for orders. What do we do with him, centurion? One asked. The manual said to kill potential spies. But I could not. I told them to leave him. I gave the boy a piece of bread and walked away. That night, I dreamt of my own childhood. The boy in the dream looked at me and said nothing. When I woke, I felt older than the mountains. Years later, when we were finally ordered back to Italy, I should have been glad. But home no longer meant anything. The roads we built, the forts we raised, the The blood we spilled, all of it had changed us. I walked through villages that once smelled of bread and olives and now only smelled of smoke. Children stared at our armor as if we were gods. We were not gods. We were ghosts made of bronze and memory. When I reached Capua, I found nothing of my past. My mother's house was gone, replaced by a vineyard owned by some senator's son. I did not knock. I turned away. The recruiter's promise echoed in my mind: a land, honor, belonging, lies. But I had nowhere else to go. Rome does not release its soldiers, it keeps them in the marrow. So I returned to the legion, though my service was done. They needed veterans to train the young. I taught them to fight, to march, to kill. I watched their eyes lose their shine as mine once did. Sometimes, at dusk, I stand outside the camp and watch the sun sink behind the hills. The air smells of dust and olive oil, the same as it did when I was a boy. I think of all the men who came and went, their names lost to time. We built Rome with our bones. The marble stands because of the blood beneath it. People will call us heroes, villains, conquerors. They will never know what it truly meant to stand in the mud, sword in hand, praying that the next heartbeat would not be your last. I am Lucius Marcellus, son of no land, servant of Rome. I have seen the rise of emperors and the fall of men. I have buried brothers, burned cities, and marched across worlds I cannot name. And after all of it, I have learned one truth: Rome is not a place. Rome is a hunger that devours everything, even those who serve it. When I close my eyes now, I do not see battles or banners. I see a quiet field, the one beyond the camp where wildflowers grow. I imagine laying down my shield there, the weight of iron leaving my arm. I imagine the wind carrying the scent of wheat, the sound of a distant river. For once, no horns, no orders, no blood, only peace. Perhaps that is what awaits us beyond the veil. The horns will sound again at dawn. They always do. I will rise, as I have for 16 years, and fasten my armor. The rain will fall, the mud will cling, and Rome will march. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the scars and the discipline, the boy from Capua will whisper that he is still alive. And maybe, just maybe, that whisper is enough to remind me that even a Roman soldier once had a soul.